Hi guys, Brian and I are going to talk to you about the 4.4.0 release. It's been a long time coming. This could have been 2 releases. We shoved a lot of new great features into here, a lot of improvements, bug fixes, quality of life improvements behind the scenes. We won't go over every little detail on that, but we are going to go over some of the major details of new features that you now will have access to with you being on support or a new user. So we're going to start with network. There's been a lot of questions with new users, how to set up the network, what's going on, my robot's not connecting. So we've added a bunch of improvements that will help you identify what's going on, what are you seeing, maybe some auto connect features. So we're going to take a look at those on the screen now. So inside your robot, we're going to go to robot connection. Right now we have an Evo on there. So by default, you'll have, if I just say reset to default, you'll have a 192.168.2. Whatever, because you're going to look on the back of your Evo and you're going to see on the controller, okay, so I'm with, 195, so that's what I'm on today. So you can see that already found it, but if not, you can hit ping and that will ping for it if for some reason it wasn't connecting. There's reasons that it wouldn't connect is usually that your computer IP address was not set up correctly. So by default now, we try to search the background of your computer, look for something that's within that universe, and make that the default. For some reason, if that doesn't work, you can always click this pen icon and go in and actually change your computer IP address. This again is the same address that you set up on your Mac or PC's network. It's not the one that's written on the back of your robot, but it's one within the same world with a different last 3 numbers. So also on here, you'll find network interfaces. So this is scanning your computer to see what network interfaces you have. It's another debugging tool. And then some of this connection status will also show you if something was wrong. For instance, we changed this to a 4. You can see ping if it's valid. We're going to try to ping this. Verify if it's achievable. It was not achievable, so it didn't find my robot because my robot address is 195 and not 194. So we've already seen that there's a problem. So then we have to go fix that problem by looking at the back of our robot. And then instantly it found the correct one. And we're going to want to hit save. Once you get all your network address stuff correct, we're going to want to hit save so that it keeps, every time you open up the software, it keeps being correct. If you have multiple robots, this is another helpful thing. So let's say we switch to a Colossus, for instance, you'll see that some of these are going to be incorrect. And then right now our robot's not plugged in, so you won't be able to see that being correct. But that is the process that you would do. If you're going to reset to another one, you're going to want to reset to the default. Otherwise, it will carry over the same IP addresses. We're going to reset to the default, put in 195, and hit save. So another nice feature that's been requested is to update our ping pongs and our looping. So we've added a few things. Right now I have a robot shot. We're going to make sure everything is set up correctly on track. We are on a larger slider. Okay, so I'm going to run this move here. And I'm going to hit loop before I do. So when I hit loop, here's some new settings. So we have a loop limit and we have a ping pong delay. So what this will do is allow you to have a certain amount of time between it running its next ping pong. So when it runs to the end, you'll have a 1 second wait, and then it will run its reverse or vice versa. So in this case, I'm going to change this to 2 seconds and we're going to run forward. And I'm going to go. So it's going to run. It's going to wait 2 seconds and it's going to count down on the screen when that happens. So it's going to start now. So delay. So it sometimes takes that first run through to get it queued up, and then it will start the delay feature. So if you don't see it right away, just let it run through one full cycle. There's the delay. The next thing we're going to show is there's also a pause. So let's say the director's like, okay, just hold here. So you can just hit pause, and then You still want to be looping because you're trying to set up the background, the lights, or art department's working on something. But then you need to go back into that. And they're always telling you to stop. So you can then just resume and it will resume the loop. This pause will not work in the middle of the move. So that's the only thing that it won't do is move in the middle of the move. It will just pause at the very end of your loop, so beginning or end. One of the requested features was to add some exports to our time-lapse. So let's say you have a move on your timeline and you wanted to run it as a time-lapse. You can now set up, if you hit browse here and select desktop or wherever you want, you can now set up a CSV export. So that will export all of your positions that you did your time-lapse, and you can use that data for a wide variety of reasons. We've added a lot of new things to the 3D scene viewer. One of the things that's very, very helpful is when you're on a keyframe and you go up to your visible tab and you toggle on transform helper, as you drag, you'll see this pane show up. This is really nice when you're using offline models or scenes, when you're trying to line things up, like in the center of the offline imported Coke bottle or whatever you want. You can have all this appear both in your 3D panel. So if I go 2 up and in my camera view and I'm jogging, like that will appear in here as well. So you can see as I'm moving in this target here, you know, this can come through that. But it's really been helpful. Also, one of the new things that we've added to the 3D environment through the scene editor is a new light source. So this rect light, and you can toggle over and see tooltips. So I don't even know how to say that. Rectangular? Yeah, like a square? Yeah, a rectangular light. Think of it like a sky panel. Think of it as a sky panel. So basically, we enter one of those into the scene. I actually have 2 now, so I'm going to turn off, or I have 3. I'm going to turn off a couple of these. Another new feature is inside of your scene props, you can turn on and off scene props really easily with these new hide tools. So we have one of these lights right here. You can scale it up to fit your actual size of light. So let's say I come down here and I want to change the scale. So I'm going to make this 600, let's get a little bit wider. You can also adjust the intensity in my scene here to really nice soft light. When it comes in at default at 100%, it's pretty intense. So I usually like to go to around 25%, makes it pretty nice. Another thing that you can see here, I was going to show you later, but you're going to get a sneak peek right now, is this color editor. So we've redone the color editor from scratch. You can now save presets. So if I click here and I wanted to make one of these into a preset, so now I have a preset red set. You can always get back to that. You can close that box up if you don't want to see it. You can make it larger. Yeah, just a really nice new color picker. Making our way back out of the scene editor, we're going to be talking about some of the presets for moving the robot. So right now, when you're done with the shoot, you may want to put it back in your case. So we've redesigned the way in which we'll do that. So we're going to go up to move and preset positions. And this is the new modal and what it looks like. So you still have shipping as one of the defaults. You still have transport, which is what we typically would use for the case. But then you have options to add new ones. So let's say the exact position I have behind me on the screen. I want to capture that and then make this, you know, shot 1 for day 1 or something like that. I can just hit save and, you know, the robot will go straight back to that first position. Even without opening up the move or having that shot open, I can just have some of those. Or your director might want to see a bunch of different things. I can quickly put some shots in here without having to pull up different projects or different timelines or different moves. So you can have a bunch of these stored. You can quickly move the robot to this position. I'm not going to move it to transport right now because we have our camera on, but this is how you would do it. You would just click transport and then move robot to position. And of course, you can change your go to position speed for how fast it goes. And then when you make a new one, you know, you'll just hit save. So while we're jogging, before you could jog locally to the camera, which means if the lens was pointing in, you want to go on the axis with the lens. but now you can also jog world. So now when I jog, this will jog in the world space to the robot. So it's going to go in and out on the robot's XYZ to its base versus the local space. You won't be able to notice too much difference in this particular aspect. So if I'm at an angle here and we wanted to show the local, so like this local in and out would go along the lens path. If I switch to world and go in and out, you see it's moving left to right, because that's according to the XYZ of the robot base. So that's a good example of world versus local. A very exciting update that we've been wanting to do for a long time is flip these damn robots over. Can it hang from the ceiling? Yes, it can. So one of the big changes coming in 4.4.0 is the orientation. So you can find that in the settings tab over here. So for instance, right now we're on the floor. I can show the controls. You can move these robot up and down. So if you had a higher floor plane, you can do that here really easily. You also can go to ceiling. So now we are ceiling mounted. You can adjust the height of that really easily. So now you can go between floor and ceiling, and you can also do rotations in here if you needed to. You would just click the pen tool and be able to rotate on Z if your track needed to be rotated, or you needed to be, totally against the wall instead of horizontal in your scene. So people have asked us to add an audio cue customization. So now our typical, when you add in an audio cue, you go on the timeline here, you go into fidgets, you can make a timeline keyframe, and there is this sound. So if I go in and test it, you can hear it's a little beep. So now if you go into your settings and you scroll to the bottom, you can now change that. So audio cue path, you would set up a path, find a different sound in that path, and then you can just hit test and that will change that to whatever you want it to be. And then it will then reference that new location with that new sound. There are a few sound types, of course. It has to be a wave or an MP3, I believe. If you, for some reason, can't get your sound to work, you can write us so we can help you get that sound in there. We have a lot of other exciting features, including a lot of really amazing hardware changes that we've added to the system, including track systems, independent motors, and new changes to our Gamepad UIs, and some cleaner looks of things coming down the pipeline. So Brian's going to show you some of those items now.
One of the biggest additions to our hardware has been the support for what's called ClearCore. So ClearCore is a small device that is put out by a company called Technic, and it allows us to control up to 4 servo-style stepper motors, and as well as provide I/O in a nice industrial quality package. For the first iteration in 4.4, we're just concerned with our motor integration, so the I/O integration will come a little bit later. This will eventually replace fidget and provide an alternative to fidget for both I/O and for some motor control. But the initial, we have a interface screen here. You have your connection to the ClearCore as well as your current motor status. And we see right here, I have 2 motors plugged in. The motor 0 is what we're using for our track. And then motor 1 is currently plugged into a turntable, as well as the current state of the I/O, which is right now just visual, but it'll be more functional later. And then you also got the configuration for each of the motors. So I can click on edit, and you'll see here, I got my current status, what my motor stats are, so how fast I'm able to achieve with a particular setup. I can also customize things like my jog speed, for safety reasons, or depending on your setup, you may want to make sure your jog speed is really, really low. So if you have, let's say, a larger turntable like we have here, and you have people on it, you'll want to prevent people from being able to jog too quickly. And, so you can customize that, as well as the go to position speed. So this is how fast it will move from essentially a point to point for initialization or go to position. And this corresponds with the go to position speed slider that you've seen for the robot. So this just allows you to customize how quickly the motor is going to move in any given scenario. And we have some presets that are already in here. You can also create new presets. So if you've got different motors, different configurations, you can quickly just, you can save those configurations in here, select it, and then you're good to go. In addition to that, got some test buttons here for go to position, as well as adding limits for how far you want it to turn or how far you want your linear rail to move. And this all integrates with the timeline. So in the case of a track, like we have here, it's just going to be a part of the robot keyframe. So you'll treat it just like any other track system. Its position is going to be incorporated into the robot keyframe. Whereas if you're just configuring a separate linear rail system or a linear movement or a turntable, those can all be keyframed down here. And so you can see here, I can move it, I can capture my current position, I can master it to 0 if I want to, and we can just keyframe our rotations that way. Also coming in 4.4 is we now have support for little Genlock device. So this is, as far as I know, a very first in our industry. So this allows you to plug this into the USB side, goes into the computer. The other side plugs into your sync generator. So that could be like a Blackmagic or some other Genlock device that's putting out a Genlock signal. And then we will automatically detect what the frame rate is. And it'll show up in here. If for some reason isn't getting a lock, you can always choose it manually as well with the frame rate. And what this will do is now as soon as this thing is detected, every move that you make on the timeline, every rehearsal that you do will be Genlocked to this signal. So you don't have to queue it up, you don't have to put it in a special mode. It'll just be on all the time. And it's just, there's literally no reason why, if you've got Genlock on set, you just plug it in and you go, and you don't have to think about it. It just does its job. And we've already done several tests, and the results have been very, very good. So doesn't matter what the frame rate is. We support all the Genlock frame rates from 23 dot something all the way up to 120. We have an all new interface for the Gamepad. So this one was added to allow you to control a much wider variety of gamepads. Prior to this, we supported your Xbox and your PlayStation, which had a fixed number of axes and was pretty consistent. But we found that other controllers were not really accessible because everything was kind of geared around these. This will detect the number of axes, the number of buttons that you have, and you can adapt it accordingly. So in here, we have PlayStation. You can see all your different axes that it detected, all the different buttons. As I move them around, you'll see here that they're all activating. You can create multiple profiles. So this is kind of similar to what you had previously. So you can have different profiles for different types of controllers, or let's say different people who want to have it control a different way. Within a controller, you can have as many sub profiles as you want. So we have our primary, and then you can create additional ones that allow you to switch between different control schemes while you're jogging. So you can think of switching to one for controlling like the rail, for the slider, or for setting it up for focus, your fizz operations, whatever you want to do. I've also added in some new options in here. So for example, if you want to, we have an option here for running the move, for example. So to do that, all I got to do is I can click on a function, add an input, and then it'll ask me to press the button. So I can say I'm going to use a triangle, and that's it. So once I hit save, now I programmed my triangle button here to run the move when I'm go to rehearse. So you can have a manual trick for that. In addition to that, every axis can be calibrated. So if I click on a particular axis, if my controller has a little bit of drift to it, I can increase the dead zone for that specific axis so that until it no longer drifts, and save that configuration, as well as set up different other combinations of using different buttons for different things.
So we've done a huge amount of changes to DMX, and that's just the beginning. Right now we have a single channel with a ton of features. Matt's going to put out a video to show you about this, so stay tuned to that. And then the next phase will be adding multiple channels of lights to the DMX.
All right, hey everybody, just wanted to give a quick overview of the new DMX expansion that we've added to MP Studio. Yeah, you can see on the setup page here under the device configuration after the update, we've got a little bit of a new look, some extra features. First, we'll talk about our database of DMX fixtures. So if you come and check out this drop down, there's already a bunch of fixtures in the database, but if we want to add a new light, we can come open up Manage DMX Fixtures, hit New, and now we are in the modal where we enter a new light. So you'll need a couple things. First, you'll need a manufacturer, you'll need a name. I've been working with a little party light. You can add a nickname if you want, you don't need to. If you always use this light at a specific address, you can set an address and save it. This can always be changed or modified later, either the entry in the database or just on a per move basis. Cool, so for my first mode, let's say I've got RGB mode, and yeah, I need 3 channels, one for red, one for green. You can see there's a lot of functionality. These are all based on the existing entries that we've got in the database, and there is a lot that DMX can do. So we've got a lot of different functionalities, but for now we're just going to focus on red, green, blue for our first mode. And let's go ahead and add another mode. This one's going to have 2 channels, and we're going to call it CCT because it will be for color temperature. So let's say we've got a dimmer and we've got a color temperature channel, CCT channel. So when we're dealing with color temperature, we need a little bit of extra data. First, we need to know the range of temperatures that the light supports. So this will all be found in the manual for the light. It should have all the information about this, how the light's color temperature range works. So let's say we've got 2.8K to 8K, and then usually this will be over the full 0 to 255 range, but sometimes it'll be less, let's say 5 to 190. So again, I would find this in the manual. It would tell me this information. I'd go ahead and enter it here. Occasionally, there'll be multiple ranges. So the capabilities of the light will be spread out over a couple different mappings of the ranges. So if I go here, I can add a range. It gives me some warnings because, as you can see, our temperature ranges overlap. This will usually not be the case. This doesn't happen very often where there's multiple colors available in multiple DMX ranges. So usually it'll be something more like, up to 8K, and then from 8K to 10K or something like that will be in its own range. One thing you will never see is a light fixture where the DMX ranges overlap, because a DMX value can only correspond to a single color temperature. So we're going to send a DMX value to the light, and it will only be able to reproduce a single color temperature. So you will never have a situation where the DMX ranges overlap. So you want to make sure that you check the specs of your light, get all this info right, go ahead and add it if you need to add ranges, remove ranges. If this mode is wrong or you want to redo it, you can always delete it, start over. Yeah, but anyway, this looks good for my little party light, and I have no notes, so we'll close this. We can see now under test, there's my light. If you guys have used the lens database or the camera database or the stepper motor database, you guys have probably seen a similar setup to this, where we can add new fixtures to the database, we can edit an existing entry if we select it, we can duplicate that entry, delete it, export it so that somebody else can use it. If somebody has sent you a mapping, you can go ahead and import that light into your database, or we can export the entire database if you need to send all of them, or if you just want to create a backup of any of the mappings that you've made already before you make changes or just in case. Yeah, you can save that with export all. Great. So now we're back on our device configuration. I'm going to go ahead and find our light here. I know that switching it will update my channels, my address, the mode I'm in, all of those things. So we can see the address reflects what we had in the database. We've got our functionality here. We're going to go ahead and switch over to our keyframe now. So if I come into the rehearse page, add a keyframe, you can see we've still got some control here in the contextual pane where we can change the light, change the mode, change the address. We have DMX Live. This toggle basically makes it so that any changes we make here in the keyframe will be reflected in real time on the light fixture. So if I change the color here, all of that data will be sent to the light. The light should reflect that color change in real time. If we don't want our light on set to actually be changing while we're making our keyframe, you turn off DMX Live. Again, this light had 3 channels, so we've got 3 sliders here, one for red, one for green, one for blue. So if I go ahead and change these, we can see our color updates, or vice versa, we can go ahead and pick a color in the color picker, and we can see our channels will update to reflect the color that we picked out of our color picker. If we go to CCT mode, we can see that we actually have a different picker. This is our color temperature picker. And so I can go ahead and change our color temperature here, and we see that that will update the slider down below. We have a couple defaults. So if we need to shoot in daylight, the daylight color temperature, 5.6K, I can hit that. I just made a random range when I made this entry, so our mapping might not be accurate. Usually most lights will have a mapping of the DMX values to the color temperature, where these standard values like a fluorescent light and a daylight will cleanly and evenly map to exactly what you expect. But if you have some random light or you make it up, it doesn't always happen that way. Okay, great. So that's most of what we need to know here on the contextual pane. Again, we still have our interpolation. This is unchanged if you've ever used our DMX feature in the past, but basically, let's say I've got a light that goes from 0 to all the way on. We can see that if I have smooth, it's kind of a nice S-curve, and if I create linear, it will just ramp straight up between the 2 keyframes. So that's our interpolation. Yeah, a couple more notes. If I want to switch my database entry to reflect that this light now is regularly used on channel 8, I can go ahead and change the channel here and hit save. If I'm just doing it for the move, I don't have to save that change. This will just apply to my current setup, my current move. But if I want that to become permanent, I go ahead and hit save. Now that's updated. I've got a couple other little warnings here, or reminders I should say, that both the mode and the address need to be set separately between the software and the light fixture, which is to say that changing the mode in MP Studio has no way of communicating that information to the light fixture. So I need to go to the light fixture and also change the mode on the light fixture to match what I have in MP Studio. Similarly with the address, updating the address here in MP Studio will not update your light fixture. You need to go to the light fixture, manually change the address on the fixture so that the address in MP Studio and on the fixture match. They cannot communicate that information back and forth between each other. So just something to keep in mind. It's an extra step, but it's just a limitation of the protocol. All right. One other quick thing I will mention here is that under our DMX fixtures, we also have a temporary fixture. A temporary fixture is basically not an entry in the database, but it'll apply to your move. So if you're just on set and you've got a light that's 2 channels, and my second channel is, let's do something crazy, hue, sure. You would never just have hue, but let's say for some reason you do. Now you've got a light that has the 2 channels. You can pick whatever functionality the light on set is going to have. Maybe it's got presets. There we go. Dimmer and presets. Now you can just create keyframes, roll with your temporary light that's just got these 2 sliders. You don't have to create a whole database entry to work with a fixture on set. So yeah, thanks for helping us out with this, beta testing it, checking out the feature, giving us some feedback. We know that the next step is to add multiple lights, maybe even multiple universes, so we can have tons of lights, especially some of these lights that have lots of channels, lots of subsections that all have color and color temperature control. So those can eat up the channels really quick. We know that we want to be able to support several of them, and so yeah, that's the next step, but we want to dial in our basics for a single fixture first, and once we get all the feedback and updates and features added for just the single fixture, we can go ahead and expand it from there. So let us know questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, and we're here to help.
Well, thanks for tuning into this video. There's a lot of exciting things going on. We're already working on 4.4.1 and 2 and 3 and 4, I think. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the background here. Just as a reminder for those that are not on the Slack channel, we've also opened up a Discord channel. We have an AI bot that you can talk to if you need support. So we've added a bunch of new things. So if you have a question about anything, please send us a message on Slack, send us an email, send us a Discord, ask the AI bot, check through the website. There's all sorts of resources out there for you to learn about new things like this.